Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Associate Professor and Program Director of Communication, Media, and Ethics at Mid-America Christian University. I'm here with a week 2 video lecture for COM 3533, Public Relations, Advertising, and Brand Management. Our video discussion theme in this course has been international travel, but we have other themes and some primary content that we're going through, and that's the purpose of this video, to get to that content that you all have commented upon through our weekly assignment, that is the weekly readings, assigned readings, weekly discussion questions, whatever. You're writing questions in response to the readings, and we're rewarding you on multiple fronts. So we're getting course credit for that, for our questions. We're getting feedback to help us improve the writing of our questions, the drafting of our questions, help us strengthen our communication skills. Like, right, we get that. We're working on our communication skills, yeah? And also raw materials to help generate this asynchronous dialogue, this digital lecture. And so I'm going to work through some questions here, try to get to all those that were printed out in advance at the close of at some point in week 2. I know more have since come in, but these just ones that were printed out. And if you're late getting in, I don't know, get it in on time next time, and hopefully we will hear from everyone by the end of the course as we're speeding along. So there are some primary texts that we're using in this course. Arthur Asaberger's Ads, Fads, and Consumer Culture, Marcel Danisi's Popular Culture Introductory Perspectives, 3rd edition. I do have the 4th edition just out of my reach at the moment. And then Robin Blakeman's Integrated Marketing Communication, from Creative Strategy from Idea to Implementation. And each of these books are moving into newer editions. Hey, that's good news. Anytime you happen to get a new edition of a book, it means content should be updated. Some sources should be expanded, and hopefully areas that maybe are a little bit outdated, if it's a quality edition, if author or contributors have been given enough time, they'll be phased out appropriately or adjusted. So now we're taking questions to engage this content, and I'm going to tackle some of these with my comments and feedback that I've prepared, put some time into. May not get to every question right. Sometimes there's a question or two that maybe is a little bit closed-ended, or just could use some tailoring, use some enhancement in order to strengthen it. So we're trying to skim off the top here, take the best of what we have, and look forward to engaging these. Very, very good discussion going on so far in public relations, advertising, and brand management. We'll start with questions from Avery, including some commentary. In Chapter 5 of Pop Culture, it is mentioned internet, radio, and streaming, but made sure to note that it did not mean podcasts. Okay, when we're talking about internet, radio, and streaming. So are podcasts in their own category? I'd assume they would be considered the same as a talk show, which is on the radio. I do understand that podcasts do not air on the radio, though. Well, that's key for us. That's a key, and this is a fantastic discussion, right? So for a course like this, let's have it out. Their podcasts are viewed as their own distinct method of mass communication. They're not produced the same. Let's kind of cut down to what they aren't, and it can help us understand what they are. They're not produced the same way as radio, even though they're audio-based recordings. They're not necessarily distributed the same way, and that's another key facet as well. We can understand radio as a distinct medium of mass communication, meaning it has its own methods of distribution, right? Production and distribution, the way it gets made and sent out. And traditionally in the history of radio, that involves, right, radio stations, airwaves, signals, and the like. And satellite radio also functions as radio, even though it's 21st century, late 20th century radio. It's a post-internet type of radio. And if we do enough digging, if we do enough research, contemporary radio stations are, they put their product out across the internet, but they're still producing it by traditional means, by those means of the radio stations, right? The use of a traditional frequency, but then they're just capitalizing on new methods of mass communication, just like radio DJs. Okay, so in early decades of radio and throughout the latter half of the 20th century, you've got radio stations full of DJs. They're not only playing music and making choices, making creative decisions. They're programmers, but they are also mixing. They're ad-libbing. They're reading ads on air. They may have shows. Some have shows. Others may have less content, maybe just announcements. But that's a distinct form, right? And they're practicing it toward a specific end. We can think of podcasts as something different because they, first and foremost, they're not using radio airwaves to send out their message, and there is this increasing blurred line between where they get produced. The interesting thing about a podcast, it can be extremely inexpensively produced all the way up to it could be produced and polished at elite production studios, including radio stations. I've done some research on this and even some writing on radio and digital radio. As you all know, I study media, I teach media, and I love each of the mass mediums and being able to have those conversations and work with some different raw materials to produce content. But we can recognize that through some strategic samples that I've done very recently. Radio experts, and I mean rock solid radio producers and performers, I've listened to many of them that have branched into podcasting, and this is a work in progress. This is an early research project. As a matter of fact, this is a MacU exclusive. This is a Castleberry exclusive. I'm breaking my own story. No, that you can tell a difference between how they execute in a format that they're very equipped and experienced working with versus what it sounds like when they're trying to produce something short form that's different, right? Something is, I'm picking up on it. I'm sensing there is something lost in translation, whereas those that professionally produce podcasts for a living get within a certain engine, a level of comfort, right? A rhythm that really works. So there are technical reasons. These are different forms of mass communication, but traditionally speaking, different mediums. But we of course are seeing people practicing a spreadable media model of mass communication lend their voice across all of these convergent means of communication. Next, let's move on. Just after reading Chapter 5 in Pop Culture and doing my assignment over Motel 6 radio ads, I'm curious if many companies see using the radio as a good media to advertise through. I'll pause right there and answer a comment on this. It depends on who they are advertising to. And I think this is one of the great takeaways we can all glean from this course. It is about knowing your audience. You got to know your product, but you have to know your audience. Where's your audience? What kind of media are they taking in? And this gets at questions that several of you have asked this week about different mediums, and that's what's so exciting. You have to know who your audience is and where they are going for their information in order to be accurately casting your ad campaign for it to be heard. All right, a little more to this prompt. There are people that still listen to the radio, writes Avery. Yes, but how does the cost of producing an ad for the radio compare to the outcome of consumer sales? Ideally, this might be something we're independently investigating. So here's my half answer, right? This is the kind of information you all could be fetching and researching for that week 2 assignment too, where we're putting together a proposal for our hypothetical ad campaign that we're launching and producing in this course, because we're getting stuff done. We're working on projects, and that's such a fulfilling process. But yeah, so I'm skating around that answer to say this information's out there, right? The costs vary, and once again, it's all about that demographic information. Where you're advertising, who's the listener, how large is the listener, which mass medium. All of these are factors that come down on cost, okay? AM versus FM versus satellite, and so on, okay? Hope that makes sense. Final comment, or do companies that still use the radio to advertise only use it because it appeals to a certain audience, such as Motel 6s? Yes. Or certain types of listening situations, right? Yeah, and so if you're a business and you're thinking about radio advertising, you want to have an understanding of where are the listeners you're after, where are they when they have the radio on? Are they commuters? Are they in their cars? Or are you reaching out to, is it small business offices, that sort of thing that we're used to hearing, public places? Where do you have a sense that your message is being carried out? And that helps you decide, is your advertising dollar best spent with that mass medium, with that organization or business that's going to push and promote your message. Here's another commentary in chapter 6 of Integrated Marketing Communications. It is talking about, the author writes about copywriting. A section of the chapter speaks about headlines and subheadlines, something we also refer to as subheaders. Yeah. I have read a couple of articles in the past that talk about how ad campaigns will make decisions for headlines based off of a study that was done that shows that a large group of people are predispositioned to look at something or listen to something based off of the combination of words or other tactics. Yes. I'd have to reread it in my mind slower and faster. Is there a science behind this successful headlining? Okay, this is nice. We're getting somewhere here, and it seems as though there's a particular way to do it, and some ad companies use various tactics, so many different tactics. This is a great time to pause, and I think my response would be to point us toward this emerging trend in marketing, and in business, and we even have a new degree program here at MacU emphasizing data analytics. All right, a lot of times we're exposed to some critical theories and methodologies in the community and ethics major, as well as some qualitative theories and methods in the comm program, and that we get a little bit of an introduction to, but at least in the accelerated side, not a deep bench of a quantitative side, right? How we develop an understanding of how to interpret statistics, how to use statistics, to find information out that will be helpful. And data analytics is able to bring this numbers-based approach to studying trends online, to studying information. It helps us understand the audience. It helps us understand web traffic flow and so many of these important terms, so that we can practice smart advertising or smart business ethics with our advertising dollars. And I guess the takeaway I leave here is it's often all about the keywords, right? That's why we say if we have keywords, if we can understand them, it's going to help us push and find that information we're looking for. Okay, let's pause there. We'll call it a break in our digital lecture for week 2, and we'll be back with more information. Sit tight.